You're over 60. You masturbate every day. You think it's harmless. But here's what no one told you: this habit might be silently damaging your brain, weakening your erections, and increasing your risk of chronic prostate inflammation. The truth: after 60, your body doesn't recover like it used to. Every release costs you more than you think, mentally, hormonally, emotionally. You may feel more tired, less sharp, less connected, and not know why. If any of that sounds familiar, stay with me. What you'll learn in this video might just change how you see your body, your habits, and your health. Let me know what decade you were born in. It helps me understand who's listening and what stage of life you're navigating. And feel free to mention where you're watching from too. We truly value getting to know our viewers better, so we can keep bringing you meaningful insights and practical tools to support your well-being every single day. And if today's message speaks to you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on the kind of content that helps you live healthier, longer, one day at a time. Now let's get started. They told you masturbation is healthy, that it relieves stress, keeps your prostate clean, and even helps you sleep. And for the most part, that's true, especially for younger men. But here's the critical detail nobody emphasizes: that truth doesn't apply the same way after 60. You see, most of the advice floating around about masturbation and prostate health is based on research done in younger men in their 30s, 40s, maybe 50s. Take, for example, the famous Harvard study from 2016. It followed over 30,000 men and found that those who ejaculated about 21 times per month had a slightly lower risk of developing prostate cancer. That statistic has been repeated over and over again in media, online forums, even doctors' offices. But here's what most people miss: the majority of those men were in their 40s and early 50s. And the way the body processes ejaculation at 45 is very different from how it handles it at 65 or 70. That's not an opinion, it's biology. After 60, testosterone levels naturally decline. That means it takes longer for your body, and especially your brain, to recover after ejaculation. And I'm not just talking about energy, I'm talking about hormone balance, dopamine regulation, and vascular recovery in the pelvic region. At the same time, something else starts to rise: your estrogen levels. Yes, men produce estrogen, and as testosterone drops, the ratio shifts. That hormonal shift plays a massive role in increasing inflammation, especially in sensitive tissues like the prostate. So, while ejaculation might have once helped flush out the system and reduce congestion, now it could actually prolong inflammation in some men, especially when done too frequently without sufficient recovery. And there's more. Nitric oxide, a molecule critical for healthy blood flow and erectile function, also declines with age. Without enough nitric oxide, blood vessels in the pelvic area become less responsive. They don't dilate as easily. Recovery after orgasm slows down. The tissues don't get the oxygen they need. Over time, this can lead to chronic stiffness in pelvic muscles, impaired erectile quality, and feelings of heaviness or tension in the perineum. Still not convinced? Let's talk data. The Mayo Clinic reviewed several case clusters involving men over 60 who reported chronic fatigue, erectile dysfunction, and overactive bladder symptoms, yet had no clear prostate enlargement. In many of those cases, one common thread emerged: daily or near daily masturbation. But here's the problem: most of these men never disclose that frequency to their doctors. Why? Shame, embarrassment, or simply not thinking it mattered. So what happened? They got misdiagnosed, treated for sleep issues, anxiety, even depression, when the underlying issue was actually behavioral and hormonal exhaustion. Because when the body is overstimulated without balance, the entire neuroendocrine system suffers. And let me be clear: this isn't about morality. This isn't about judging the act of masturbation. This is about context, frequency, and physiology. The truth is, after 60, ejaculation stops being just a stress reliever. It becomes a neurochemical and hormonal event. And your body needs time and resources to recover from that event properly. If it doesn't get them, the cost shows up in places you can't ignore: your memory, your erections, your sleep, your mood, even your heart. But the most dangerous part: it creeps in slowly. You don't wake up one morning with a broken system. You just start to feel off. You're more tired than usual. Erections aren't what they used to be. You don't feel as sharp or as connected. You start needing more stimulation more often to feel the same effect, and yet it leaves you feeling more drained. That's the loop. That's the trap. And it's a loop many men walk straight into, thinking they're doing something healthy. So if you've been living with brain fog, pelvic tension, less sensitivity during sex, or just a sense that something's not right, don't brush it off. Don't assume it's just aging. It might be your body quietly signaling that your daily habit has gone from harmless to harmful. And the sooner you recognize the signs, the sooner you can reverse course without shame, without guilt, and with the full support of science behind you. Now let's go deeper because this isn't just about facts. And in the next part, I'll show you 5 specific consequences that most men never associate with daily masturbation, but should. And more importantly, I'll help you recognize them in your own life. Let's keep going. So now that we've peeled back the surface, let's take it one layer deeper. Because the real danger of daily masturbation after 60 isn't just in the act itself, it's in the ripple effects it quietly creates across your body, your mind, and your life. These effects don't come with warning labels. They don't announce themselves all at once. They just settle in quietly, gradually, until one day you wake up and realize something's gone missing. Your clarity, your energy, your connection. And you can't quite put your finger on why. Let's start where it all begins, the brain. When you masturbate, your brain gets flooded with dopamine, that powerful feel good neurotransmitter that makes you feel pleasure, motivation, even euphoria. But the older brain, especially after 60, doesn't regulate dopamine like it used to. It takes longer to clear, it becomes more sensitive to overload. And when you stimulate it daily, especially without emotional connection or novelty, it stops responding the way it should. That's called frontal lobe fatigue. You lose the sharp edge. Your motivation dips. Tasks that used to excite you feel flat. When you start avoiding social connection, not because you're antisocial, but because your reward system is burnt out. Some men even begin to experience mild depressive symptoms, or what doctors call emotional blunting. The same brain scans that show changes in dopamine regulation among substance addicts. We're now seeing eerily similar patterns in men with compulsive masturbation habits. Think about that. What starts as stress relief may be slowly dulling the very part of your brain that makes life feel meaningful. And then it shows up in the bedroom. Or rather, it doesn't, because here's the second hidden cost: erectile dysfunction and reduced genital sensitivity. When your nervous system is constantly bombarded with high frequency stimulation, especially from porn or fast goal driven release, it becomes desensitized. The receptors for dopamine, oxytocin, even serotonin begin to downregulate. That means the same stimulation no longer gives the same effect. You need more. And when it's time for real intimacy with a partner, with real touch, real emotion, you find it harder to feel aroused, harder to stay erect, and worst of all, harder to feel anything at all. I've worked with men who told me they hadn't felt truly excited during real sex in years, not because they didn't love their partner, but because their nervous system had been rewired to respond only to solo stimulation. That's not aging, that's overstimulation. And it's reversible, but only if you see it for what it is. But the consequences don't stop at the brain or the bedroom, they extend into the deepest part of male physiology, your prostate. Now, let me be clear, ejaculation can help clear the prostate, but only if it's accompanied by full rhythmic muscular contraction, like during partnered sex or slow intentional solo touch. What happens with daily, rushed, isolated masturbation, especially in a sitting or slouched position, is that fluid can become partially retained. Over time, this builds up. It leads to inflammation, congestion, discomfort. This condition has a name: chronic prostatitis or chronic pelvic pain syndrome, CPCPPS. It doesn't always show up on scans, but you'll feel it: a dull ache behind the testicles, frequent nighttime urination, burning or hesitation when you pee. And many men never connect it back to their daily habit because nobody told them it could be a factor. And then it starts affecting your nights. Many men masturbate at night thinking it'll help them fall asleep. And in your younger years, maybe it did. But after 60, the brain's relationship with ejaculation changes. Instead of relaxing you, it can spike cortisol, the body's stress hormone, especially if the act is rushed, compulsive, or followed by guilt. That cortisol bump disrupts your circadian rhythm. You fall asleep later. You sleep lighter. And by morning, you don't feel rested, you feel depleted. That disruption also blunts your natural morning testosterone surge, which is vital, not only for energy, but for protecting muscle bone density and mood as you age. So let's recap. You're more tired, less focused, more inflamed, less sensitive. But perhaps the most painful effect of all, is the one that doesn't show up on any lab test. It's emotional isolation. See, compulsive solo habits often begin with stress or boredom, but over time they create distance from your partner, from your emotions, or from your very sense of connection. You start skipping opportunities for intimacy, avoiding vulnerability. You convince yourself you're fine on your own, but something deep inside starts to feel hollow. Men rarely talk about it, but I see it in their eyes when they finally open up. That quiet loneliness, that subtle shame, that question that haunts them: why do I feel so disconnected from my own life? And here's the truth that stings the most: it's not because you're old. It's not because something's wrong with you. It's because your body is telling you you've crossed a line it can no longer ignore. But now that you know the signs, you can stop walking down that path. You can step back, rebalance, repair. In the next part, we're going to draw the line where healthy ends and harmful begins. I'll help you understand what's normal, what's not, and how to know if your habits have crossed into the danger zone. Because recognizing it is the first step to reclaiming your strength. Now, it's time to separate what's safe from what's silently wrecking your health. Because let's be honest, after everything we've covered, one question is probably still lingering in the back of your mind. So, is masturbation bad after 60? And here's the answer, clear and simple. No, it's not inherently bad. The act itself isn't the enemy. What matters is the context, how often you're doing it, why you're doing it, and how it leaves you afterward. See, masturbation in moderation can still offer benefits at any age. It can release tension, support pelvic floor mobility, and even help maintain prostate function if it's done with awareness space to recover and not as an emotional escape. But when it turns into a daily ritual driven not by desire but by compulsion, the line starts to blur. And once that line is crossed, the very thing that was supposed to give relief begins to drain you mentally, hormonally, even emotionally. So, how do you know when you've gone too far? Here are the red flags no one talks about, but every man needs to recognize. If you find yourself needing to do it every single day just to feel normal, that's not release, it's dependency. If you feel a strong urge to masturbate when you're bored, lonely, anxious, or trying to avoid uncomfortable emotions, that's not pleasure, it's avoidance. And if you notice that after you finish, you often feel tired, irritated, numb, or even disappointed in yourself, then your body is waving a red flag you can't afford to ignore. The truth is, many men in their 60s and beyond don't realize they're in a compulsive loop because they've normalized it. They've convinced themselves it's just my way to unwind, or I've done this for years. But when a habit costs you more than it gives, it's no longer harmless. So let's talk boundaries, real healthy science backed ones for the male body after 60. For most men in this age group, a safe frequency tends to fall between 2 to 4 times per week, not every day, not multiple times a day. This range allows your nervous system to recalibrate, your testosterone to recover, and your dopamine system to reset so that each experience remains pleasurable rather than numbing. But even within that safe range, context matters. If you're staying up late just to squeeze in another release, if you're doing it instead of making time for intimacy with your partner, or if you're choosing it over a walk, a phone call, or a conversation, then it's not just about frequency anymore. It's about what the habit is replacing. Healthy sexuality after 60 isn't just about keeping the plumbing working. It's about supporting the entire ecosystem of your health, getting enough sleep so your hormones can recover, staying physically active to support blood flow and nerve function, building meaningful connection because emotional intimacy is the most powerful aphrodisiac there is. And here's the empowering truth: once you bring awareness to your patterns, you're no longer stuck in them. Once you set new boundaries, your body responds sometimes faster than you expect. You start sleeping better, feeling clearer, getting stronger erections, not just because of circulation, but because your brain is back online. So, no, masturbation isn't the enemy, but mindless repetition is, emotional avoidance is, and anything that slowly pulls you away from vitality, clarity, and connection is worth pausing to examine. And that's exactly what we'll do next, because now that you've drawn the line, it's time to shift towards solutions. How do you reverse the fatigue? How do you retrain your brain? And how do you rebuild the balance between pleasure and power? That's what the next part is all about. You've drawn the line. You've seen the signs, and now you're ready to shift. But let's be clear, this isn't about quitting a habit cold turkey or punishing yourself for what you've done. This is about resetting your system, rebuilding connection with your body, and restoring the clarity, energy, and strength you know you're still capable of. So, where do we begin? We start where the damage began, the brain. When you've been stimulating your reward system daily, especially through fast disconnected habits, it becomes overloaded. Your dopamine receptors get dulled, your motivation dips, you crave more stimulation but feel less satisfaction. That's why the first and most powerful step is a simple one: dopamine detox. Strategy one: detox dopamine for 7 to 14 days. That means no porn, no masturbation, no artificial sexual stimulation at all for just 1 to 2 weeks. Why? Because this window gives your dopamine system the chance to reset, to breathe, to recalibrate. And for many men, the shift is immediate. After just a few days, brain fog lifts, focus improves, mood becomes more stable. After a week, you start to notice cravings losing their grip and your natural drive slowly returning. Not out of compulsion, but curiosity, wholeness, and that clarity. It sets the foundation for your hormones to heal. Strategy two: support your testosterone naturally. You don't need injections or extreme diets. You need the essentials. Vitamin D3, especially in men over 60, plays a critical role in hormone production, and most of us are chronically low. Zinc supports prostate health and testosterone synthesis. Boron helps balance estrogen levels, keeping inflammation down, but supplements alone aren't enough. You also need to move the right muscles. Start with daily pelvic floor exercises. Yes, that means Kegels, but do them right: short, firm contractions followed by full release. Combine that with deep pelvic stretches like the happy baby pose, which opens circulation to the perineum and relaxes deep tension built up from years of sitting and overactivation. You're not just training muscles, you're restoring blood flow, nerve health, and your body's ability to respond. Now that you've laid the groundwork, it's time to bring back pleasure, but differently. Strategy three: replace compulsive release with intentional practice. This is where the concept of edging comes in. Instead of chasing a quick finish, you slow down. You tune in. You stimulate gently and stop just before climax. Then breathe, rest, and begin again. This rewires your nervous system toward control, not impulse. It protects the prostate, strengthens erection quality, and perhaps most importantly, brings awareness back to the body. Edging just once or twice a week can be a game changer. You're not depriving yourself, you're retraining your pleasure pathways. But even intentional stimulation needs time to integrate. Strategy four: respect your recovery window, at least 48 to 72 hours. Think of ejaculation after 60 like an athletic effort. Your system needs time to bounce back. If you're still feeling foggy, low energy, or emotionally flat the day after, it means your recovery isn't complete. Don't push through it. Listen, track your sleep. Notice your energy levels in the morning. Pay attention to how your mood fluctuates. Your body is always giving feedback, you just have to tune in. And when you do, you'll notice something remarkable. When you wait until you truly feel ready, the experience is 10 times more fulfilling. But this isn't just about hormones or habits, it's about the heart. Strategy five: reconnect emotionally and socially. The more isolated we feel, the more likely we are to fall into compulsive patterns. And yet, when you begin to reach out to a partner, to a friend, to a shared activity, you start to rediscover what real intimacy feels like: emotional connection, touch, laughter, presence. I've seen men in their late 60s who hadn't felt desire in years come alive again, not because of medication, but because they rebuilt connection. They learned to feel again, not just stimulate. They stopped chasing release and started choosing intimacy. And for those who feel like they've crossed the line into addiction or are unsure whether they even have a choice anymore, there is help. Strategy six: get professional support if needed. Porn and masturbation addiction is real, and it doesn't make you weak or broken, it makes you human. But there are trained professionals, sex therapists, behavioral specialists, and urologists who understand this pattern and know how to help. Sometimes the answer is therapy, sometimes temporary medication, sometimes a structured reset protocol that combines brain retraining with physical rehab. And every week, thousands of men over 60 begin this healing process and come out not only restored, but empowered. You don't need to walk this alone. You just need to be willing to take the first step with clarity, with courage, and without shame. Because healing isn't about perfection, it's about choosing something better on purpose. And in the final part of this video, I want to leave you with a message, a moment of truth that will remind you who you really are beneath the habits, beneath the noise, and what you're still capable of reclaiming starting right now. Let's finish this strong. Your body is aging, but your mind, your heart, your masculinity, they don't have to. Daily masturbation might offer quick relief, but reclaiming control, that's how you get your dignity back. If you've ever questioned how this habit affects your energy, your mood, or your health, this is the time to pause, observe, and choose differently. Let your body recover. Let your brain reset. Give yourself the space to feel strong again naturally, without shame. If this message spoke to you, just type yes in the comments so I know you're with me. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the insights that help you stay sharp, vital, and in control. You know what to do. Now give your body the chance to feel the difference. I'll see you in the next video.